How's it going, everyone? It's Jake the Ashen Hollow, and welcome back to Beside the Bonfire. I'm going to let our esteemed guests introduce themselves.
I'm Redgrave. I wrote a long book about Bloodborne that's super boring. It's called The Pale Blood Hunt. Super long.
No one's heard about that book at all, so...
It sucks. It's a terrible book. You shouldn't read it.
I am Aegon of Asura. You should all probably know me by now, but if you don't, hi. I guess.
I'm Richard Pilbeam. I have a channel called Jerks on Frontier, where everyone has decided to call me that as if it's my actual name.
JSF.
So now everyone just calls me JSF, and I've given up fighting. And I mostly do Bloodborne stuff, but I've done a couple of Dark Souls 3 things, and I'm in the middle of putting together a new Dark Souls 3 thing. And I've been on Aegon's videos a few times. People might know me from there, and also on Bonfire side chat a couple of times as well.
Awesome. So I guess what we're going to start with, as we were just kind of talking about before we started, was the identity of the painter.
The little girl?
Yes.
The painter.
Yeah. Ariamis. So I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
Why don't you speak to that first, and then we'll talk about that.
Who, me?
Yeah. No, the other Redgrave.
Alright, no, shut the fuck up. Alright, so, the only thing you know about Ariamis is not the name of the painted world in Dark Souls 1, because there's the line where Priscilla kills you. Sometimes when Priscilla kills you, she'd say, I don't remember the exact line, it's something like, why do you think Ariamis made this land? Or why do you think this land was painted by... It was something like that, I don't remember the exact line. But, so the deal is that Ariamis was a person who painted the painted world, and then came into existence. And clearly, the painting that the painting girl is painting, it's pretty clear that it's going to be the painted world of Ariamis through some kind of weird time travel shenanigans.
Yeah.
She's even like, oh, it'll be the home for someone lonely and sad. Hint, hint, hint. Let's go back and play the first game. And, you can even see, it's straight. I haven't compared the two, side by side, but it's pretty much just a half-finished version of the original painting.
Okay.
It's like a white block, kind of.
Well, no, but all the outside sky is done, and she just needs to paint the castle in.
Although this raises the question of why it's now called the Painted World of Ariandel. If Ariandel is the family there, but the painter is still Ariamis.
Well, because he's the restorer, it says, right?
Yeah, but she's still painting it.
But if you look at
but is she painting it from within? It's there's some paintception going on. She's inside the painting,
it really is, yeah.
And she's painting a painting of a painting. And theoretically, when that painting is done, you could go into the painting inside of the painting, which is also part of the same painting. I guess.
It's Mario 64 all over again.
Yeah, it's messy.
There's even the snow world that you.
Okay, so you're kind of under the impression that she's actually painting the painted world of Ariamis that we visit in Dark Souls 1.
I mean, I think that's the most logical explanation.
That's really convoluted, though, isn't it?
Yeah, so is Dark Souls.
Yeah, see, I like that idea for sure, but the one thing that kind of throws me off is if you're doing the Londor quest line, when you talk to Frida, she'll actually talk about Yuria and how you're supposed to be the Lord of Hollows and go fuck off and do that shit.
Yeah.
See, what leads me to believe that maybe it's not... I was going to say it's not that simple, but that's not really a simple idea. Is the Crow citizen in the Corvian settlement, or Corvian citizen, I don't know how I've been referring to it, that... a lot of people said, and this is true in many ways, that the DLC doesn't really answer many questions from the main game, and it just sort of creates new ones.
Well, it creates a basis for... Stay tuned for our next DLC.
that, but also it accentuates certain points from the main game that were maybe a little bit more subtle initially. So my view on that is the whole world, as we discussed in the previous podcast, the whole world is sort of contracting into what seems to be a singularity centered around the killing of the first flame. And then at which point the question becomes, does the world just end, or instead of a big bang followed by a big crunch, and then that's it. There could be a big bounce where sort of the world expands, another world is created. And in the case of the Corvian, because you can go back to the Corvian citizen after you defeat the last boss of the DLC, and then he basically thanks you, gives you a Titanite slab, but then says that the one thing we do right in this world is that when the world begins to rot, we set it afire, so to pave the way for the next world. So if he's saying the next world, that seems to me that it's far more likely that the painter is painting a world that will come after, and that the painted world of Ariamis was before.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they could come before and after. Like, it's not hard, like, to just sort of shoehorn it in there.
It's kind of messy, though. And I know that Dark Souls 3 is messy, but that's really messy.
It's cool, though. I was like, when she was like, it'll be a cool home, I was like, oh, cool. She's talking about Priscilla. I was like, yeah. So I was like, cool. But yeah, it's kind of silly.
Because I guess, canonically, you can't really determine what is canonical in certain instances. Like with Gwendolyn was an optional boss, and so the canon there is that the Chosen Undead didn't actually kill Gwendolyn.
No. Everything is canonical.
Okay.
Like, because
I see what you're saying. Yeah,
that everything is canonical.
Because of the multiverse, right?
Yeah.
And we do it in game. We can fight Aldrich twice, once in our world and once in Henri's world.
And same with Sirius of the Sunless Realms.
Yeah.
We kill Hodrick by beating the boss, by beating the Curse-Rod Greatwood.
Or the Curse-Rotted Greatwood.
And then when you're summoned by Sirius outside of the boss room later on, if you look up, you see that there's that she hasn't defeated the boss, and he's still alive.
It's still in the Pit of Hollows, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so she found some other way in there. Presumably, like the same way that the guy in the cage brings you there.
Yeah, yep.
There's like doors that's everyone misses.
So that's what makes it really messy, is the multiverse aspect of it. But, I don't know. What do you think, Jake?
Well...
Oh, you can go ahead. You can go ahead, Richard.
Does it make it messy, or does it resolve everything because you have a get out?
That's my point of view.
Yeah.
Is that the whole time is convoluted thing, the time and space is convoluted thing is just an excuse, and not necessarily a bad thing, to just put cool stuff in your game.
Yeah.
That's sort of how I view it.
Because everyone who plays the game is going to play it differently. Everyone's going to have a different experience.
Yeah.
And it's a way of making everyone's experiences equally valid.
Yeah,
some of us are going to play and we're not going to beat the Curse-Rotted Greatwood because we don't need the transposing kiln. So maybe Sirius is on New Game Plus. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Jake?
Yeah, no, I get that for sure. I think, because I know a lot of times I try it. I don't know. It just convolutes my mind usually because you get to a point where everyone's right, but there's still things that would still technically be wrong, but at the same time maybe not, however many times this way it goes. And so it's important to talk about, I think, and you guys brought up kind of the more important points about it. But I myself don't talk about it too much because it's just blows my mind a lot. And
you mean like the multiverse sort of understanding of the game, or
no, just the whole time's convoluted. These events happened, and because it's great obviously that everyone can kind of sculpt their own story as they go along, but when it comes to talking about lore on a public platform like what we're doing, it's when you try to kind of say, okay, what's more canonical than others, but there technically isn't, I guess, is where kind
Dark Souls 1, the time is convoluted thing was just a big excuse to have you hang out with Black Iron Tarkus, these other heroes from the past in Solaire, and it was just this excuse they had to have you hang out with a bunch of legendary heroes and cool stuff.
Well, it was a means of incorporating the gameplay into the story, the multiplayer mechanics.
Yeah, well, that was the big thing.
Specifically, that's what it
he
was.
says.
Yeah.
The line like time is convoluted is larger, and it's right before he gives you the soapstone. So like,
And he says that the heroes
Centuries
from
old.
They come in and out,
phasing
and-
in and out
yeah,
of
yeah,
existence.
something like that.
There's no telling how long your world and mine will remain in contact.
Yeah.
But and so I think that something I've been thinking about a lot is a lot of the problems that people have with Dark Souls 3 and to a certain extent with Dark Souls 2 as well. I don't think there's so much problems with those games themselves as much as they are problems with sequels in general. And in this case, like, because it's really, really hard to take a game like Dark Souls that designed around this open-ended storyline and then to graft 2 sequels on top of it. So it's sort of like...
I don't think it's very open-ended.
You mean Dark Souls 1?
Yeah.
It ends pretty definitively.
Yeah.
Well, it does, but there's still, like, it's still designed around the idea of allowing that interpretation, right? And
Well, it's
so
got
that's...
two endings, but, like, one of those endings seems pretty definitive, which is the Age of Dark, and the other ending suggests that you're going to link the fire, someone else is going to come and kill you. So it's going to happen again. Yeah.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that once you start adding sequels to that, because it's a nice neat package. Once you start, because they didn't know, because we take FromSoft for granted today as a developer that's going to continue making successful games that sell really well. But at the time, you think about Demon's Souls, like that was almost a completely failed project at first, right?
It was a failed project. It only came out in Japan and PAL.
And they struggled to find.
It wasn't until people started importing
mouth.
copies from PAL because they were in English, because in the PAL region most games are, that Atlas picked it up and was like, okay, we'll publish this in North America. And then it wasn't for like another year that it even came to Europe.
And then so riffing on that, like building on that, when Dark Souls 1 came out, they weren't... It is almost like Final Fantasy in a way, where Final Fantasy, the whole idea behind that name was that it was the last chance.
It was his last project, yeah, because everything he had made was a failure. And
exactly.
So he was like, well, I'll make one thing, and if it doesn't work, I'll go into whatever family business I...
Yeah.
And so I think all the messiness that sort of stems from Dark Souls 3 is related to that, of this. When Dark Souls 1 was first made, they had no idea if they were going to have the luxury to continue making games like this.
No, but like, the thing is, From Software were not, like, we're talking about this in relation to Squaresoft. When Squaresoft did Final Fantasy, they were on the brink of collapse.
Yeah.
From Software were on the brink
of
collapse. They just weren't a huge developer outside
You're
Japan.
right. You're right.
They were best known here probably for the Armored Core games.
The Armored Core
very
games.
niche. Yeah.
But they were, I still think, making the game under the assumption that it would be a, just the one game, sort of like Bloodborne. That there were no plans while they were developing it.
Yeah, it's Dark Souls 1 is entirely self-contained. We don't need sequels, but they happen. So
that I think, more than it being a problem with Dark Souls 3 or even Dark Souls 2, I think it's just a problem with sequels in general.
Yeah.
And certainly there's some things they could have done better, and I think a lot of that it comes down to cut content and them perhaps biting off more than they can chew, and the cross-pollination between all the different dev teams they have going at the same time.
Well, Dark Souls, if you want to talk about cross-pollination of dev teams, Dark Souls 2 is the poster boy for that.
Dark Souls 3 has
3 as well.
Dark Souls 3
Dark
is not
Souls
as
3
bad. Because with Dark Souls 3, like, there's clearly 2 different games, and you can go like, okay, everything before, like, Lothric Castle is one game, and everything after Lothric Castle, or Aldrich is the turning point. Everything leading up to Aldrich is one completely different game from everything after Aldrich. Just in terms of the way the level design is and way, like, the encounters are shaped, like, it's just completely different. But, like, Dark Souls 2, like, holy shit. Like, it is a miracle that game came out at all. Like,
exactly, yeah.
It is incredible that
and that it's at least somewhat coherent.
Like, people like to shit on it, but it was fucking great.
No, I love Dark
It's a miracle that didn't turn into, like, Sonic 2006 or Daikatana or something, based on what happened during the development.
Yeah, good point. But sorry, I got us way off track there. So, returning to the identity of the painter, I guess.
Yes.
So does anyone have any other ideas other than it might be Ariamis herself?
I also wanted to point out the scales she has on her face, and I included pictures for you guys. She has snake-like eyes and scales on her face, but you can also see the scales, on parts of her body, it's kind of scaly, but it looks almost like a scale infection, if that makes sense, because I can't think of a better term.
She's somewhat reptilian.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen the eyes, the close-up of the eyes. That's really interesting.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Which are basically the exact same as Priscilla's eyes, except for the coloring.
And the nose here, is that just because we were clipping through her nose?
Yeah. That's just,
okay, so cause I was gonna say, because it almost looks like the doll as well, with like little pieces sort of falling off. And so is the effigy sort of in the boss room? Is that supposed to be of the painter then? The one with the tail?
Yeah. See, I don't know. That's gonna be something I brought up as well. The kind of the snake
Or the statue?
serpent statue that.
Well, do we think that's mummified Priscilla? Because I've seen.
Yeah,
people
I mean
say
that's the
that.
question. That's the elephant in the room. Is like, is this a
Yeah.
mummified Priscilla? And like the way snakes, like the snake skin works, is it does peel off like that and
Yes.
harden and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's not. It doesn't really look like a statue. It looks like a corpse.
Yeah.
And the question is it Priscilla? That's like the big question, because
It's got like rope around the neck too, which is interesting.
yeah, well she and like a hood, like she was hung.
Mm-hmm.
And the snake skin part of the body is stuffed with wood
Yeah,
and like bits of rope. So it's like there's this
like a
armature
trophy?
that the snake skin's been put on.
well, I mean, if you
Like
look at
just
the
skinned- yeah.
look at Ariandel, it's like he restored the painted world because like its past was covered in blood and stuff and protected the secret or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the flail he you can get from his soul, or
Yeah.
the Sister Frida's soul is like, oh, he came into the world, and like my interpretation of that was like, you know, he came in, he swung his dick around, he was like, okay, this is my house now, and then like he sort of covered up everything that used to be there, and you know, gave it a fancy new name and all that stuff, and he was like, now this will be our king, whatever.
Well, because so the whole reclamation thing, I think I was going to mention this earlier, but I didn't actually get it out. Was that for Cornix, the whole idea of restoration is something that was in the game previously, and one of Cornix's spells,
I'm having a total
the Pyromancer.
meltdown. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. That it mentions that he was, I don't remember what spell it was, I think it was combustion or something. It mentions that he was the restorer of the spell. And that it was a spell that was certainly in the previous game, so he couldn't be the person who actually developed it. But that he was the person who restored it to its previous condition.
Right.
So that's something that was in the game previously. So I don't know what that means, certainly, but for whatever reason, I guess, I don't even know.
It's a technique, those pyromancy spells, and he's like discovered, you know, he's brought it back, basically, is how I took it.
Yeah, and in the similar manner, like, do we think Ariandel made the painted world? I don't. I think he moved in, because like everybody who's living there now looks like people who just sort of moved in. Like that's what all the descriptions of the Millwood Knights and all the followers and stuff is. It's people who just like found the world and was like, oh, cool, we can set up camp here.
And we're told outward there's the Corvians looking for Velka, looking for a place to go.
Yeah, by the way, I called the shit out of it. You guys remember, right, when I was talking to you guys about the Corvians and Velka? You know, I called the shit out of it. Points for me. I love being right.
And that's where it really that it, like I was saying, that it accentuates many of the themes from the main game, and in particular this point of, at what point do you just tear something down completely and start over again? And at what point is it still worthwhile to take something that is in a terrible state of disrepair and try to restore it? And in the game proper, the whole idea is, we got to continue linking the flame in order to keep the world going. But I think that the message that the DLC is trying to send about the main game is that really it might be better to just sort of let the world die so that can pave the way for a new one, for rebirth.
So the whole theme of Dark Souls, like the whole series, is entropy. It's like eventually everything goes away. Like eventually the flame will fade. And in Dark Souls 1, that was pretty much like the idea. It was like one day the fire will fade and it's just going to be over. And then Dark Souls 3 kind of added a little bit of a wrinkle to it, which is like, sure, you can relink the flame, but every time you relink the flame, it gets just a little bit shittier.
It's weaker
Yes.
and weaker. Yeah.
Yeah, like,
as a solution.
like sure, you can link it 1,000 times, but every time it's just going to get a little bit shittier. And eventually there's just going to be no more. And like even in the ending in Dark Souls 3 where you do link the flame, it's like, yay, I linked the flame.
Yeah, if you watch the intro for the first episode of Dark Souls 3 Let's Talk Lore, that's precisely what I did for the intro, is where it starts with this really sort of epic moment where in Dark Souls 1 you're linking the flame and
Right, yeah,
it's just like
to
your
Dark Souls
character's
1,
going
it's like,
Super Saiyan and yeah, like the whole kiln catches on fire. And then in Dark Souls 3 he links it and then it's just kind of like his hands on fire a little bit and then he just sits down and becomes the Soul of Cinder. And that's with 5 lords instead of just 1, whereas in Dark Souls 1 it was just 1 lord.
Yeah, they can't even do it with 1 lord anymore. Like they're like, fuck, this is hard.
So it's on 2 different scales that it's become weaker.
Not only does it just slowly
efficacious,
become
and it
weaker,
takes more lords too, to even achieve that diminished effect.
Yeah, something like that.
And so, at best, that's what I think. If at all, the DLC is meant to comment on the main game, it certainly doesn't fill in many of the gaps that people were hoping it would.
It filled in one gap for me and nothing else.
Sullivan's origin.
No,
the question that no one really even asked.
Fire being used to cleanse abyssal pus.
Of fire?
That's referenced in the Follower Torch. It says that the abyss manifests as pus in the body, and fire was used traditionally to cleanse it. And that's something that's kind of hinted at in the base game with the way that, like, you see burning corpses, and you see, and like the way that the pus of man's extremely vulnerable to firebombs, and it gives you firebombs right before you're going to fight one. So it's sort of like, it's hinted at mechanically, but it was nice to have some confirmation that you use fire to cleanse the pus of man. Yes, the evangelists.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So
cleansing the
something that we aren't planning to do then. But sorry, we're off track again. I'm going to stop
Who cares?
putting us off track. Well,
Who cares?
It's not my podcast, so.
Look, if Mr. Moderator wants to step in, he can. But otherwise, I'm just going to keep rambling.
I'll just let you guys go, man.
Do we want to talk about whether there's any significance to Sullivan's origin? If that matters at all?
I'm like the only person in the world who doesn't fucking care about Sullivan. It's like all I ever hear about when I read Dark Souls 3 Lord is like, Pontiff Sullivan is behind it all, and I'm just like, oh.
See, because
he is behind a lot of things.
They put in the spells that are like, oh, Sullivan was born in the Painted World, and that was fucking it, and that it just left us with just that.
Well, no. It specifies he was born in the Painted World, and because he was born in the Painted World, he hadn't experienced loss.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that's probably the most important part. It's not where he was born, but that it's significant because, for some reason, coming from the Painted World, he's not used to the idea of things fading away, maybe. And that's maybe what drives him to seek this flame that never goes out.
And so with that also reminded me of something that Cassadev mentioned on your discussing Dark Souls 3 was about Sullivan and the relation to sort of the theme of Dark Souls 3 of everything, every area sort of being split into haves and have-nots.
Yes.
And something that Cassadev said back then was that, it's almost like Sullivan, he saw, that there were the haves and the have-nots. And with the things like the Profane Flame, which the DLC didn't really explain at all, unfortunately.
No.
But that, he saw that, he saw an opportunity, and he said, I'm no longer going to be, I want to be one of the haves as opposed to the have-nots. And so this really fleshes out that idea even more. That,
I don't remember
place that...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, that he came from this place which we can presume wasn't really the greatest back then, but I guess we have really no way of knowing. Certainly it's only gotten worse since he left, but, he resolved that he was locked away in this place. He was othered as part of the the Painted World, and decided, I'm not going to deal with that anymore. I'm just going to go and take over things and do terrible shit. So, I don't know.
Well, I was just going to say, I don't remember, because I didn't really follow the community lore, but I remember early on, there was a lot of talk about the relationship between Sullivan and Yorshka. And Yorshka is sort of the thing that nobody's talking about here in regards to Ariandel, because she's a fucking crossbreed. She's got the tail and the silver hair and the eyes.
And she's also located right around where we would have entered the Painted World, right?
If the Painted World if she was in Dark Souls, if
the cathedral was still there.
Yeah, I can't think of the exact geography, but it's got it.
It's pretty much right there, yeah.
It's basically the same place, yeah.
Yeah, and that's called like the Church of Yorshka now. And so the thing is, like, Pontiff Sullivan probably took her with him when he left.
Yeah.
Well,
Right? Like that.
yeah. But then there's the question of, like, why would he do that?
Well, because.
And then just to lock her up.
And what I was
Yeah,
going to
he-
say is, there was this theory I remember a long time ago was people talking about how, like, Yorshka's always talking about her brother who used to be the captain of the Dark Moon Knights or something who abandoned her.
Gwendolyn.
Yeah.
Was that Gwendolyn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're pretty sure it's
She's all talking,
Gwendolyn.
like, flowery language when she says Father Gwyn and Brother Gwyn.
Yeah, no, she says that. That's word for word the oath that Gwendolyn
It's the
gives
same
you,
thing
but then
Gwendolyn
later-
says.
But then later on,
Sister
she will explicitly refer to him as her brother.
Oh, does
And
she?
that he
Yeah,
left,
which
he said
makes
he was
me
going
think that, like,
somewhere.
yeah.
Sorry, you go on, Richie. I'm basically repeating
Well,
your explanation.
it doesn't
so.
necessarily mean that they're related, but it does mean that, like,
yeah.
her past is with Gwendolyn, it's
Okay,
not
sure.
with Sullivan.
That's legit. That's fair.
Yeah.
It's curious that they would have allowed her to continue on, though.
Well, he hides her. Gwendolyn hides
Yeah.
her in the tower, doesn't it?
Hmm. But also, you'd think that Aldrich would have access to her to Gwendolyn's thoughts and things.
Well, also,
so-
she was clearly an important person in Irithyll. Like, there's the Church of Yorshka, and all the people, like, sort of pray to her or something.
Well,
Wow, you're
the
about to
thing is
interrupt
that it's called the Church of Yorshka, and then if you kill Yorshka, she drops a talisman that says that the name Yorshka is given to her by her brother. So he came and he told her your name is Yorshka, which makes me think that he's named her after the church rather than the other way
maybe.
around.
Done the other way, yeah.
But what about her, like, her spear hammer thing? I don't remember the item description of that, but doesn't it mentions her? I think.
It mentions
And having some
it's like
important-
the
or does it just
Yorshka
mention
church followers
the
or
church?
something. And the other thing
Yeah.
is, like, it's clearly not her spear because she's incompetent. She's not a warrior.
Yeah, right.
She just stands
She
there.
doesn't know how
yeah.
to use a fucking spear.
Yeah.
So maybe it is
And
the church came first.
Well, the Dark Moon Knights, they have golden ritual spears, and the Yorshka spear is like, I don't know, like another version of that, maybe? Like a higher ranking Dark
Reminded me
Moon
of
Knights got
Santier's
that.
spear too.
Yeah.
So, in other words, we don't think that Yorshka is really related to the DLC, at least
Well,
explicitly.
she might be related,
She
but I don't
has to
think
be. She's got a fucking tail and silver hair.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
But it could also be that she was planned to be a reference to the DLC before they knew that they were going to be doing Painted World as the DLC. So
But
it's
didn't
kind
they
of
plan the DLCs like way before?
Yeah, I'm pretty
it came
sure.
out?
Like,
Because this
you
isn't
plan
like
stuff.
Artorias of the Abyss where it's like stuff, so we didn't have time to finish stuff, we patched it in later. This, like, I remember when it came out, like as soon as it came out, they were saying there's going to be 2 or 3 DLCs. We have them planned.
Yeah, for sure. I think
I
they
guess
said
we won't really know until the next one comes out, though,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate. When is that supposed to be? February or something?
Early next year.
something.
Well, that should be interesting, but...
AKA Ashes of Ariandel, the complete version.
So, Jake, I don't know what other topics you had planned, but I guess maybe we should try to wrap up with the painter and move on to something else?
Yeah, that works. I think...
You still haven't really told us what you think about the painter.
Yeah, what do you think?
I think that it's very likely, like Redgrave said, that it is Arianis. But I've pondered the thought of, I think she's obviously related to Priscilla, and I think that it would likely be through blood, whether it's mother, daughter, sister, or whatever. Just considering that she's in the painted world, shares the same hair color and the same eyes, and has scales. Even though Priscilla's scales are more white, and hers are kind of like grayed and kind of just.
But they're also
diseased.
much lower graphical fidelity, though, is the other thing to consider with Priscilla.
Yeah.
That they might look the same if they were in the same engine, but we have no way of knowing how they would have rendered Priscilla in the Dark Souls 3 engine.
True.
So it's hard to do direct comparisons of their physical appearance.
Hell, we don't even really have any idea of knowing how they would have rendered Priscilla in the Dark Souls 1 version. Like, she wasn't finished. Like, the thing you have to remember about the Painted World is that it's kind of an inside joke.
Almost content area,
Which is that it's the place where Gwyn and Seath would dump all the stuff that they didn't finish or that they failed or that didn't work out.
Or they were afraid of.
And it's sort of an inside joke with the developers, which is that they just stuffed all the content that they didn't finish in there. Like Priscilla
Not
was
necessarily that they didn't finish, but just that
but like something
really
that
have a
they
place
got
elsewhere in the
canceled
world.
or they didn't finish, or so like that's something you sort of have to keep in mind with Priscilla, is that like
Because there were even
what's the deal with
questlines too.
Priscilla? Like I don't fucking know. She's not done.
Like we were supposed to invade Shiva of the East in the Painted World.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Priscilla was supposed to be like the maiden in black firekeeper figure who was going to level you up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she has all these unused animations and stuff.
And Nito was actually supposed to be the boss, at least when it was a prototype area for the game.
Yeah.
That you were supposed to crash through the floor, and then Nito, and then Nito.
And there's like there's a cutscene that's actually still in the game that you can trigger by debugging it, where the crow will take you to and from the painted world instead of using the painter.
Oh,
that's the reason why
interesting.
people call that crow Velka. That's the reason why people think that crow might have been
Velka.
or like an avatar.
And if you use the map editor, you can put the painted world like in with the other maps, and it slots perfectly in, and you can
I
actually
think it's like right next to the undead asylum, or
you can
the northern
you
asylum.
can kind of see it. Like there's a channel called Wolf2K9 that's done all this like debugging stuff, and I did some comparisons with the footage he'd done, and like you can basically see where the painted world sits in the rest of the map. It's just kind of invisible. Like it's got a little spot, and you can go to and from it by the crow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'd be very interested. Do you know if this person has done any work with the Dark Souls 3 map editor? Something we're still working on.
I don't think he has yet.
Because with that, I guess that would require a debug version of the game, right?
Yeah.
So we really got to hope, in other words, that
well, he's in the middle of debugging Demon Souls now, so we have a while to wait till he's done with Dark Souls 3.
Yeah, like people have been debugging Demon Souls for
that's crazy. 7 years at least. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
We finally got that Archstone. We finally got to see what was in there.
And Jake finally got a PS4 and Bloodborne, I hear?
Oh, yeah. Picked it up
Oh,
today,
good.
So.
Yeah, I heard you invited me on here without even knowing who the fuck I am. I was like, nice.
No, I invited you on here. Or I just said to Jake.
It's just funny, the idea of somebody like inviting me onto their Souls podcast, and it's like, oh, but I don't know anything about Bloodborne. I'm like, well, why'd you get me?
Jake got in just as basically the three of us took like a really long break. Because we just finished Bloodborne Let's Talk Lore, and real life things came up, and then and then I was like, who is this Ashen Hall person I've never heard of who has like twice the subscribers that I do? And it's a brand new channel basically.
You sound pretty jealous.
I don't care. And there's plenty of subscriptions go around, so it doesn't bother me at all. But yeah, thanks for having us. And I guess we should mention also that Mitch L and Smoketown are regrets for today, because it's really hard to get people together across several different time zones. So they'll sort we've not banished them from the podcast or anything, but they will certainly hopefully be back.
Absolutely. I told Mitch next week or whenever we do the next one, if I have to call out a work for him, I am. So he'll definitely make the next one.
Yeah.
Richie trying not to crack up as the cat.
Yeah.
Before we move on to the next topic, since we're already off topic, Richie, why don't you explain the cat thing?
The cat is actually next door's cat that adopted me, and it will not leave. Because they have another cat and a dog, and it prefers it here because it's quieter.
Yeah.
So like you leave the window open and it just like slips inside.
It's coming in. Well,
so
I have my window open all the time anyway because it's so stuffy here. But,
yeah.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
She's ruined several recordings by howling.
Well, you're not paying enough attention to her, man. What the heck?
Yeah.
She adopted you so that you could pay attention to her.
That's true.
Hell yeah.
Alright, so next topic then?
Alright, so I don't think that we can talk Painted World without bringing up Velka, and I'm known widely as Velka Fanboy 69, so we're gonna go into that topic next. So when we first enter the Cathedral of the Deep, I forget the name of the bonfire.
Cleansing Chapel.
The Cleansing Chapel, yes.
Cleansing Chapel, yeah.
When we first meet Gale, before we actually talk to him, he starts speaking on his own. I've gotten into a few different arguments of people thinking that he's mentioning Rosaria here, which I don't think he is, because he says, he's praying and he says, "O merciful goddess, mother of the forlorn," which I think is absolutely Velka, but other than that, Velka's not directly stated anywhere in this DLC. But
Well,
I
doesn't
wonder why they would do it here.
Elfrida takes the form
Yeah.
of Velka.
Yeah, no.
And
in
like
the
Ariandel's
unexplained, I
flail,
think.
like looks exactly like the Velka talisman. It's like a giant version of it.
Mm-hmm.
And like
is it
Ariandel
top-
himself is covered in all these feathers like Velka, like the Corvians.
Also, there's like a ton of statues everywhere of like a woman, but like it's a little bit destroyed.
Yeah.
It's like you can't see the face or something.
In the cathedral.
Yeah, all over the
Yeah, well,
place.
that's actually what the video I just recorded and I'm in the process of editing is on.
It's about on
because
the
we're-
statues and stuff.
It's on basically, yeah, the cathedral plays a pretty big role in it, because we're told that the Way of White, they're no longer based in Thurland, they've been basically taken over by Kareem. And Kareem
Right.
is where Oswald comes from, of course, who's a follower of Velka. Right?
Yeah, and Velka
He's
is
a
big
sin guy.
in Korea.
So Way of White, if that's a Way of White cathedral, would worship Velka. So it makes sense that, okay, those are Velka
and
statues.
and
in the Velka
Gale
cathedral.
uses a Way of White miracle. He uses the
Yeah.
new one from the DLC.
Destructo Disc.
The
Yeah.
Destructo Disc.
And, yeah, the
So there's a Kamehameha and a Destructo Disc in the game.
and also like just sort of tangentially related. There's a ton of rusted coins everywhere in
yeah,
the DLC.
yeah.
And the rusted coins, for those of you who don't remember your Dark Souls 1, those are originally like coins that were used for the Way of White. I think they actually have a depiction of Allfather Lloyd on them, but that could be
different
something
items.
else.
Different items. You're thinking of the brass coins from
Might
Dark
be.
Souls 1, because the rusted coins came into Dark Souls 2. There were no item
But I
discovery.
thought I'm pretty sure the
increased
rusted
Dark Souls
coins in
1.
Dark Souls 2 are just the brass coins.
Yes, but you were saying they were in Dark Souls 1, weren't you?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Whatever, it doesn't fucking matter. The point is that
Because
there's
in
a
Dark
lot
Souls
of
1,
Way of
there are
White shit.
coins. The coins.
There are
that-
coins in Dark Souls 1, yes.
but they're not for item discovery. They're different items.
I don't think they really do anything.
They don't
other
rate
than
your
give
item
us
discovery.
information. Right? It's like brass,
Sorry?
silver, and gold.
Yeah, and the only thing you can do with them, because it says in the item description that people hold on to them, even though
Memories.
they'll never be used or something
It's a
like that.
memory of
And so
when
the
I
only
was,
thing you can do to them is feed them to Franked, and that's it for souls. But in Dark Souls 2,
which is way more useful than the item discovery.
well. The gold ones are good, but sorry, Redgrave, I interrupted you. What were you saying about the coins?
Well, I was just saying there's a ton of like Allfather Lloyd and Way of White shit, and there's even like the corpse where you get the Destructo Disc is like praying in a cathedral with the two badass Corvian
Corvian
guys.
Knights.
Those things
Yeah.
are so fucking cool.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just want to say that those things are so fucking
They
cool.
are
Like,
really cool.
They're so fucking cool.
And just the way they set up the encounters too, because like they totally the way they set up certain encounters, it's like they totally know their players, and they at least in my case, like, and I'm sure anyone who was watching my blind playthrough probably knew that I was going to be really upset when I saw this guy just laying into all of these poor sick Corvian settlers who were just sort of walking there, and I was just like, no, stop. And yeah, but I lost my train of thought there.
They're cool. They're cool fucking
They're cool.
guys. But yeah, no, the point is like there's
The Way of White.
The Way of White is clearly in operation in the painted world, which is
Or
funny
they were.
because when was the last time we heard of the Way of White? They
Well,
weren't
they're
in Dark
pretty much
Souls 2.
gone in Lothric.
They weren't in Dark Souls 2, and they weren't in Dark Souls 3.
Yeah.
And we also spawn with the Way of White Circlet, which is not something we've ever had before, which takes the place of, what was it, the Bone of Separation or something?
Something.
Yeah,
like that.
something.
Which was an online item. And I think it serves the same function, but I still don't quite understand why we start with that instead of the same item that we have for the first two games. So there might be something there. But we do also spawn in a place that's filled with clerics who are presumably associated with the Way of White.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Like, my point is that like the name Way of White like doesn't seem to be a thing anymore. It doesn't seem to be something that people talk about anymore. And when you go into this painted world, which is a bunch of people who sort of moved away and like ran away and set up shop somewhere else, it's like you get the idea that like the Way of White and all the Velka worshippers were like, check out this cool place full of Velka stuff. Let's go hang out over there.
Yeah.
And I think that's partially the point that like no one talks about anymore, because like the definition of forlorn is pitifully sad and abandoned or lonely, or of an aim or endeavor, unlikely to succeed or be fulfilled, hopeless. So if you worship a god that has basically been wiped off the map in the world, then yes, it makes sense that Gil is referring specifically to Velka and not to, what was it, Gertrude? You were saying, Jake? People are saying Rosaria.
Yeah.
No, it seems pretty clear to me that, and especially because there's a statue of Velka behind, as we mentioned in the previous podcast, there's a statue of Velka behind that deacon's altar there. Yes. So, and he's clearly not praying to the altar. He's praying to what's behind it.
Yeah.
The impression I get is that the Cathedral of the Deep was this side of Velka worship because you have the Velka statues, Way of White worship Velka. Then, when everything goes down with Aldrich and the deacons, they take over and they're the ones that put the altars in front of the statues. They put they drape the statues in cloth. They lock away Rosaria. So Velka and the Way of White are basically done in Lothric. Like, they're over. It's just Aldrich now. Mm-hmm. So it's possible that Way of White there's stragglers in Kareem, but we never go there. So
it's like the one place I always wanted to go in a Souls game was Kareem. Right? You just want to go see where Oswald comes from. It's like,
I want to go to the deep. I don't give a shit about Kareem. I want to go to the deep.
Go play Bloodborne.
Wow.
Okay, I think that bit in Ariandel where there's all the flies and all the rotting shit down below, that's basically what the deep is to me. So you've been there. You've been to the painted deep.
Repeat that? The part, the mine part?
It's like, there's all this like rotting crap with those giant flies on it.
Yeah.
In Ariandel, right.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I'm concerned, the deep basically would just look like that.
Well, he says it's underwater, doesn't it? A vision of water, like Great Ocean or something.
Yeah, the deep,
sea.
The Age of Deep Waters.
Yeah.
It's confusing because like there's the deep, the abyss, and the deep waters, and they're all written slightly differently, but all kind of seem to be the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, because the fact that there's the deep gem and the dark gem, I think it's supposed to be very important that the deep is
they're
something
separate.
Else. But there's some other source of dark in addition to humanity.
On the same thing.
Yeah.
And like the deep gem and the dark gem, they both do dark damage, but the deep gem doesn't scale. The dark gem scales with your faith.
Oh,
so they're separate. Yeah.
Interesting.
They're different takes on the same thing.
Distinction there.
I always kind of thought that the term like sea and waters kind of came from the fact that like even with Manus' soul talked about how the abyss and humanity was very viscous. And like we see in like Aldrich's boss room, it's kind of like slimy, and there's like a couple inches of the watery, gooby shit. So I mean that's just my interpretation of.
Richie,
No, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that Richie should probably speak to the idea of Kigari and standing water and its significance and stuff, because I don't think we discussed that. Well, I think I tried to discuss it in the previous episode, but you're obviously the expert on these.
That's what the video I just did was about, and it's 45 minutes long. So I don't know how much time.
So you shouldn't spend too much, but
like
yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
I was gonna try and
a lot of like this comes out of looking at Bloodborne, because Bloodborne as a game is absolutely steeped in imagery that's taken from Catholicism, but the story and how the religion in that game works bears no resemblance to Catholicism at all. What it bears a resemblance to is indigenous Japanese folk beliefs, which are all lumped together, and it's called Shinto. And basically, there's a concept in Shinto about flowing water versus stagnant water. The idea that flowing water is very, very pure, because if it's constantly flowing, then it's washing away anything impure. If there's any pollution, if there's any anything that pollutes the water, if it's flowing, if it's a stream or a waterfall, that the motion of the water will carry it away. If you have water that is standing and stagnant, there's no motion to wash away the water. There's no motion to wash the pollution away, so it just settles to the bottom. And that's why you get like Archdeacon MacDonald talking about he delights in the stagnation of the souls, and the way that the human dregs are described as being heavy and that they sink to the bottom and they don't
depths
move.
Imaginable.
Yeah, and like the Japanese name for the human dregs is literally human stagnation. So it's like, well, that stuff is sunk down to the bottom, and that's where all the corrupted crap is now in the deep. Yeah.
And so just like I was mentioning earlier, like that is a prime example of the type of cross-pollination which happened with the dev teams. That, you know, you just come from working on Bloodborne, which is a game that's all about this notion that you just perfectly explained, and then, you know, they come to work on Dark Souls 3, and I don't know if it was intentional.
Something you talk about a lot when you talk about translation issues is that translating from one language to another is not converting units of measurement. There are just certain ideas that like will exist in one language and not in another, and just like, you know, idioms and culturally bound language and things can't translate. So the whole thing in Dark Souls 3 about stagnation, it's just sort of offhandedly referenced, but it's very difficult to translate that into a way that would make sense to an English-speaking audience who haven't been raised in that culture. And it's Bloodborne was exactly the same. There's all this stuff in there that like there's no English equivalent for these words, so we just call them we just say like corruption or something as a stand-in, but it loses the nuance.
Yeah, and it's not like it's not a mistranslation. It's just that's the reality of how translation works. That's what drives me crazy when people describe things as mistranslations. Like, no, it's just there are a number of ways that you could try to articulate this concept in this language that isn't, you know, where it actually originated.
Well, I think they do an all right job of
I think so too. Yeah, absolutely.
In Dark Souls 1, you had this idea of like the fire soul, the souls that are made of fire, the god's souls are like fire, and fire has no mass, it's just fire. But the dark soul, which is humanity, is heavy and it has weight to it, and it's like it drags you down and you have to carry it along, and it's like it's got mass. The idea that the dark soul, which is just what humanity is, it has mass to it and is heavy, and it drags along the ground, and you have to, and when you gather it all together, it causes problems. Like when you go back to Ulasil, which is actually something that when I was playing the DLC and I was looking at all the rotting stuff in Ariandel, it reminded me a lot of what's going on in Ulasil, which is just what happens when all this heavy, like stagnant, weighty mass just sort of coalesces and it starts bursting out of people's eyeballs and stuff like that. And the mutants in Ulasil start having that. And then you have the pus of man dragons that are bursting out of people's backs and stuff. So you lose like the sort of the flow of water aspect, but you get this sort of idea that the souls of the gods is fire and it's light and it brings warmth and it's great. And then the souls of human beings is heavy and dark and cold, and it just causes problems. And so you don't really need to have that kind of cultural aspect in order to sort of get that message across.
But it does make it much richer, though, once you understand that.
Well, one of the big things about like this whole corruption thing is that within Shinto, the idea is like pollution is very, very bad.
Yeah.
If something is physically polluted, it's also spiritually polluted, and that's not really something that we, as a culture that's very heavily influenced by Christianity, has, because to us the idea is like the purity is it's your intent, it's who you are inside. Whereas this is something that like it's a lot closer to things being kosher or halal, like the idea that like that substance is taboo, you're not supposed to touch it.
I got you for a second.
Yeah.
I'm a big horror movie fan. I love horror movies. I watch tons of horror movies. There's a huge difference between Western horror movies and Eastern horror movies.
Definitely.
In Western horror movies, it happens because of the things that people did.
Yes.
Going
Human
wrong.
agency.
So a bunch of teenagers going out to a cabin and opening a box that has demon inside of it and goes out and it kills somebody and or like people who did human sacrifice and that causes satanic ritual or whatever. But in the
filmmakers going to the woods to
and so in the West, what happens is it's bad things happen to people who did bad things. Whereas in Eastern horror movies, you get something very different, which is the only reason you're being chased by this ghost or this demon is because you picked up the wrong thing or you went into the wrong house, because the thing was what was tainted. Like you have The Ring is like one of the most famous, or The Grudge. The Grudge is probably the most famous example, because in The Grudge, it has nothing to do with who you are as a human being. You just happen to move into this
wrong
house.
place, wrong time.
Yeah.
And
you
now
come
that
into
you're in
contact with grudge.
And now that you're in this house, you're tainted. You're fucked. You're dead. It doesn't matter if you were a good person or not. You are filthy. You are unclean. And now you're just going to die. Sorry. And it's a really different kind of way to look at horror as opposed to, you know, the Greek tragedy, which is, oh, my hubris has brought me down, as opposed to the Eastern tragedy, which is just wrong place, wrong time. You touched something that you shouldn't have touched, and now you're dead.
Well, and that's kind of what happened with the deep. Like, all this crap has sunk to the deep and polluted it. And the deep, you know, we're told the deep was originally peaceful, it was originally sacred. And now, because all this stuff has settled there, it's become this horrible, you know, abyss, not literally abyss, but like it's become this massive, just corrupted crap. And that's like risen up, and it's corrupted the cathedral with it.
Where does it say like the deep was once pure? Is that?
It's in the I think it's either deep protection or one of the other miracles you get from the Deacon's book. No, it's the Deacon's book, and it says that like the Deacon, it was originally a peaceful, sacred place that they worshipped. Then things started to settle in it, and the deacons changed to trying to seal away the horror that was in the deep, and then eventually that failed and it overtook them.
That seems familiar. I can't place.
Yeah, it was deep protection.
Was it deep protection?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, that's maybe we should leave the deep for the next episode, because I know Mitch had a lot of stuff that he wanted to talk about with respect to the deep. I don't even remember how we even got on this subject. I asked JSF to speak to the concept of like the impurity, but how did we get there? Sorry, everyone.
I have no idea.
One thing I wanted to ask about the DLC then, I guess while we try to remember where we were, is whether anyone has any thoughts about that crying tree under which we find the crying tree lady under which we find the item talking about was it the one of the two items that talks about Sullivan's origin.
Well, isn't there like someone's dug up that tree woman's got cut dialogue where she says my child is gone?
Oh, I did not know that.
Which makes people think maybe that's Sullivan's mother, that he's born out of a tree.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
That'd be cool.
I had no idea there was already cut content.
There's always cut. It's a fucking FromSoft game.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Okay, I'll have to look into that because like that really freaked me out because for most of the DLC I wasn't playing with headphones on because I usually don't. Because whenever I play with headphones, I don't have a setup that allows for me to do anything other than plug it into the back of my TV, which
I don't even have speakers.
Well, see, that's what I mean, and so I was forced to start using headphones because I was getting my ass kicked by Lady Frida so often, or so many times in a row, and because I couldn't tell where she was. But then when I put headphones on and I was sort of looking for things that I had missed, and I was down near the depths of the painting, and then I started hearing this crying. I was like, what the heck am I even hearing here? And I thought that was kind of cool. And then elsewhere, next to that church where you fight those two Corvians, near where
there's another one with a young white bird.
Yes. Yeah, the one that right underneath it, there's a young white branch. And of course they look very similar. So I don't know what that means or if anyone has any thoughts on that. That it's sort of maybe a loose Ulysses connection?
Yeah, I've thought the same thing, especially when it mentions that there's an abyss dragon that was the enemy of the Knights.
But elsewhere it only
Stay tuned for the next DLC.
Pretty much. I actually have a set of notes here. 1 second.
Oh shit.
Be an cooler Calamite. He's like Calamite, but he has
because elsewhere
he's Calamite but cooler.
Refers to Calamite as in the Hawk Ring as Caladimus Dragon.
Yeah.
And not as an abyss dragon, because that was the first thing I checked. And then
he's the dragon of calamity.
Calamity.
Yeah.
But you would think that if it were the same dragon.
Oh, I don't think it is. I think they're
no, it's not the same dragon.
Okay, I thought so too. Yeah. Because if it was the same
not from the abyss. He just happens to be an Ulasil, where the abysses run rampant. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And thus turning him into Black Dragon Calamity, right?
He's always Black Dragon.
I think he was always a Black Dragon.
Oh, he's always Black Dragon, but that like infected him at the same time.
I don't think he got infected. I think he was always a joke.
Really?
I think he was just hanging out in Dark Souls.
Well, it's
1.
like Seath. Seath's the white dragon. Callum meets the black dragon. You can have any kind of dragon
No,
you want.
Seath is a pale drake.
Pale Drake. My apologies.
This is the only thing about Dark Souls that I legit care about is the classification of dragons, so don't fuck it up.
Maybe I should make sure to get you on for Archdragon Peak for less soft lore than Redgrave, because yeah. But so who's this Abyss Dragon? I guess maybe just foreshadowing for the next DLC.
Yeah,
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like it's such a non sequitur otherwise. Because I can't think of any.
What? I just had picked up these arrows and I was like, oh, that's the item description of the Abyss Dragon. And I was like, oh shit, that sounds awesome, and then it just doesn't happen.
It was the Millwood. Millwood.
I kept
Knights,
going, where's the
right?
dragon? And then the dragon.
I think, kind of regardless of that, the kind of the Grave Tender and the Grave Tender's wolf and shit is like very symbolic of Artorias and Sif as well. And so I don't.
But not. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just gonna say I think there are like definitely like a lot of hints and ties to Ulasil in the Painted World, and I kind of the first thought I had on a whim was like when shit was going down in Ulasil when we visited it in the DLC in Dark Souls 1, perhaps at that point when shit was hitting the fan, some of the citizens and people could have entered the Painted World because they're like, oh, our home's gone and we've become forlorn, and kind of just went there. Because but that basically ties to the fact that I think that this Painted World was the Painted World of Ariamis until Ariandel restored it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Well,
I could see that.
Priscilla's boss arena is like literally in it. Like,
yeah, it's like over there.
It's
like
the
right
same.
over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the exact
Bits
same...
of it fell off and they repainted them, and now it's slightly different. But
yeah,
the
exactly.
original thing's still
And the
there.
exact same statue of Velka and the child that was in Dark
Yeah.
Souls 1 that you unlocked, and it
when you
turns...
turn the crank,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's the exact same
it's the exact same crank too.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And the architecture is identical.
Yeah.
Like, and let's not forget the rotting stuff in Dark Souls 3. That was there in Dark Souls 1. Like, let's not forget about the zombie guys who would explode with pus.
Oh yeah, them. Yeah.
Not the phalanx, the hollows who were infected
Yeah.
with weird rot that caused toxic. And
Yeah.
don't forget that there was no
Jeremiah?
official name. There were no official names.
I always assumed it was
For the
Night
bloat
Boss.
guys.
There were
Like-
no official names for in Dark Souls 1 for
They were
enemies.
just
Because
called
we do find the acorns nearby, the ones that used to cure the egg form, right? Egg vermifuge, yeah.
Yeah. Well, but also, and if you look at the Painting Guardian set from Dark Souls 1, it was the highest set in the game for poison resistance. Like, the idea was that there was this rot, there's this poison shit in the Painted World. You gotta be fucking careful when you're dealing with it. So, like, clearly the same world, and people are like, oh, but the new painting she's painting, it's a different world. I'm like, look at it, it's the exact same place. It's either the same place or it's a place that was painted by an artist who only knows how to paint one painting. Like,
Which is, it's possible she's a little kid too, right? Like, she's really young.
is she?
Yeah.
Come on, I don't fucking know.
Time's convoluted.
Young enough where I feel really sick seeing some of the messages that people leave around.
Yeah.
Like,
She
it's
is
just,
propped up exactly like Yosefka. Did anybody else notice that? Spoiler alert. Sorry, Jake.
Yeah, but that's still, But anyways,
They just reused the pose like animation.
Yeah.
No,
they
it's
reused
different.
some
It's
of Maria's animations for Elfrida.
but
and they
the
also
painter,
reused some
but
of
the painter's
Bloodborne's
very.
doors.
The painter specifically, you can see with her hands, she's painting in her mind on she's feeling sort of the contours of the table. Like, it's very
is she?
different than
That's pretty cool.
yeah than the pose we find Yosefka in After the Blood Moon, or Imposter
Spoiler
Yosefka.
Spoiler
I'm sure
alert.
Jake.
Double
Jake-
spoiler alert.
None of this even makes any sense to Jake.
Triple
yet,
spoiler
anyway, so.
alert.
I'm just...
Bloodborne's weird.
So do we want to talk about Frida then? Is there even really much to talk
Frida's
about?
fucking awesome.
I think so.
I believe she's what you Aussies would call, correct me if I'm wrong, JSF, a Bobby Dazzler. Bobby Dazzler. Oh.
So Frida is a cool boss.
I was trying to do my best Aussie impression and I just didn't even say it correctly. Bobby Dazzler, you never heard that term before? No? Yeah,
I've never heard anyone use it. I've read it.
Too much EEV blog.
How do you spell it?
Let's just move on.
That was me just trying to make a bad joke about Australians, but yeah, I really just made a fool of myself more than anything.
That's an Irish.
Is it? Listen, there's an Australian YouTuber I watch who uses the term, and I thought that would be funny. But
apparently it comes
but
from
really, it's just JSF just being like,
What the fuck?
excuse me?
Although apparently there is an Australian sitcom called Bobby Dazzler.
I've never heard of that.
You've never heard Bobby Dazzler? Oh.
I've never heard of it, despite owning, like, I'm obsessed with bad Australian television.
Well, it's a YouTube channel that
it was aired on the Seven Network
so.
in the late 70s, apparently.
Well, that probably explains why I haven't seen it.
But yeah, so I guess just starting with the basics with Elfrida.
Yeah.
That Elfrida, I'm told,
no longer is Elfrida.
Is like a formal version of Frida.
L is
what does
a
Yuria
prefix.
call her? Oh yeah.
L is a prefix.
L is a prefix.
Yeah, Yuria just calls her Frida, doesn't she?
Yes, and you when you look at the item descriptions, everything that has to do with when she was super awesome in the Sable Church of Londor, they're all like, "Oh, praise be to Elfrida." And then when you look at all the stuff about the Corvians, we're just like sort of chilling with her. It's like, oh, Sister Frida was just around. So L is a prefix, denoting. It can denote a lot of different things depending on the context.
Okay.
But yeah, her name is Frida. Her name is
Yeah.
And so they clearly, together with Ariandel, they clearly locked up the painter in an attempt to keep people from burning the painting away so that they could try to restore it.
Yeah. Well, I think
that's kind of a leap of assigning motivations.
Yeah.
But
okay. What other motivations would there be, though?
I don't fucking know. They definitely have the painter, but she's not like in chains or anything. She's just got Wilhelm outside keeping an eye out.
Well, she does.
So like, it's not even.
I was gonna say, she does mention that she needs a pigment to finish the painting, which that maybe
yes.
away. So
the Dark Soul. And so that right there is like, I guess maybe the interlude for the next DLC.
Well, I think it's pretty like it's
just kind of ends
it's
like
pretty
it's
obvious at this point with DLCs. But
honestly,
like we've had 2 of the 3 sisters of the Sable Church already.
Yeah.
So it just makes sense for the next one to be, was it Lillian who's the 3rd sister?
Yes.
Lillian,
Yeah.
Man.
And so
I spent an hour after beating Frida looking around, convinced that I had missed a door. Or
I spent way longer than that. I spent
like about an hour before I said fuck it, and I looked it up
Yeah.
online, and I discovered that no, that's the end.
I didn't look it up, but I spent like 4 hours looking around, and I found like, because I had missed like the invader, I'd missed several like small things, and then afterwards I was like, I guess that's it. Like, because it was really good up until that point where I was like, I feel like it's just like if it were they had just given us a little bit more closure.
Did any of you play the new Deus Ex game?
No.
Man, because like I had the exact same feeling where I'm like, I'm finally in it. Story's getting super cool. Whoa, there's this really interesting things that's happening. I'm like, all right, super excited to see what's about to happen. Super stoked. Wow, I'm really pumped now. And then I'm like, oh, credits are rolling.
Yep.
Yeah. I think one of the really interesting things about Frida is that we find out that she's actually Ash, like we are, and I think like especially considering she's is part of the Sable Church, I couldn't picture, because as far as we know, Ash was people that tried and failed to link the flame.
Yeah, and all the Sable Church are hollows. So.
Yeah, and I can't see her trying to link the flame being with the Sable Church. So I thought, what if her attempting to become the Dark Lord, that the whole Dark campaign all of Dark Souls have been trying to do to usher in the Age of Man, what if failing to usurp the flame is another way that someone can become Ash? Because I just can't picture her.
Ashen ones are really important in the Sable Church if what Yol says is anything to go by, because he's like, oh good, an Ashen one.
Yeah.
So it's like, and it's like the way that you usurp flame, it's you take that flame into yourself.
Yeah.
In the same way that you take an ember into yourself. So it's like, can only Ashen ones can actually usurp the flame in accordance with this plan that Karth and Yuria and Lillian and Frida apparently used to have, and then maybe Frida was intended or something to do this, and that's why she's left. I don't know. But it's interesting, like Ash's, like, that they make a point of her being Ash, and then Yol makes a point of like, I'm here looking for Ash. Oh, when Ashen One, as I live and breathe an Ashen One, you are here.
Yeah.
And that's what he's looking for. So there aren't Ashen Ones everywhere. It's not just any undead.
Yeah.
So it's like they need an Ashen One. Yeah.
What's more is that if we look back at the definition for forlorn, so the second one being of an aim or endeavor unlikely to succeed or be fulfilled, kind of describes Elfrida if she either decided not to light the flame or, felt that maybe she couldn't. She didn't have the power to usurp and not light the flame. Usurp the flame. That maybe she felt that she couldn't, and so, I don't know. Yeah. I really don't know.
See, isn't her whole thing, though, she goes to the painted world and just lets it rot?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so she found.
And presumably, if you usurp the flame, would Lothric and Lordran and whatever's left rot, or would it enter into this new age? And maybe she doesn't want the new age; she just wants nature to take its course and for it to rot.
And also, would that displace the center of gravity? That the kiln has the center of gravity. Like if you displace if you usurp the flame, brought somewhere else, would everything start converging around that specific spot?
Converging around you.
Yeah, you become the center of mass, basically.
You become the center of the new planet.
That'd be very interesting.
It's like Katamari Damacy.
Yeah, or Goshen the Giant.
Yeah.
You just
I'd play that.
Yeah.
Dark Souls 4, do it. Okay.
Dark Souls 4.
Please don't. Please don't. Please don't.
Do Dark Souls 4 as Katamari Damacy.
Please don't.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, I don't really have anything else, Jake.
I think to wrap things up, I was gonna have a look at the mural we see painted 5 or 6 times around the boss room, and what I think that there's a lot of symbology here, but I'm not 100% as to what it could be, because it's a very specific painting. I don't think they just said, hey, so-and-so paint something that looks fucking cool and put it in this box.
It looks pretty fucking cool.
It does. It definitely looks cool, but I don't think that was like the goal. Like, you just make it look cool, man. Throw it up in the fucking boss room.
And you got some messengers down there. And,
so guys, can we
shadows
take
of Yharnam are up there?
Can we take a 2-minute bathroom break?
Yeah.
All right, sorry, I'll be right back.
Wow,
sorry.
Professional.
Sorry. Shut up.
All right.
I mean, we can keep talking.
Yeah. Let's talk about how all of his theories are wrong.
Yeah, that's funny. I think it's really interesting. The one on the right, her arm looks really charred and burned as well.
I'm just gonna pull up the mural. Hang on, because I haven't got a picture of it saved.
Pretty cool fucking mural.
Mm-hmm.
Hang on.
And then the 2 hollows on the left, on the bottom, the 2 outside hollows, it kind of looks like they're wearing the build mask with the white hair, white shaggy hair coming out of the back, but we can't really see the front too much.
Hollow? You're talking about the 2 figures that are burning up?
Yeah, on the far outside.
They don't look like they're wearing anything to me.
No, but like
they
on
look
the
like
heads,
they're
like the white hair coming out of the back. Is kind of
we might be talking about something else.
Do either of you have like a hyperlink to like a
It's in the Are we breaking kayfabe with the? It's in the Skype chat. You know kayfabe? Do you know what kayfabe is?
Wrestling, yeah, I do. Hopefully we'll edit out. Jake will kindly edit out the part where I say that I basically have to go take a.
No, don't do it, Jake.
And then I've been holding it in the entire time.
Don't do it, Jake. Yeah. Authenticity is key. Paramount.
I mean, I don't know. We were still kind of talking a little bit of lore.
Yeah.
My bad.
Gotta go in there.
Well, we could talk about the difference between how Australian toilets and North American toilets flush.
That's apparently a myth.
Yeah, it is.
It's not real?
No, it is real, but it's not because of the equator or anything. It's just like they're like the toilet.
Just the way they designed the toilet?
Yeah. There's like, if you go beneath the equator, water swirls. It's like, no, that's not how fucking science works.
Alright, well, I'm ready to go again whenever you are. My bad.
Oh yeah, I was just pointed out 2 things that I thought were kind of interesting off the bat. Was the female, I'm assuming that they're females. The figure on the right in the cloak, the Nazgul on the right, his or her arm looks really charred and burned, the one that's holding the snake. And then the 2 hollows on the bottom, so there's 4 hollows total on the bottom. The 2 on the very outsides, the one that are kind of staying directly in the fire, kind of look like they're wearing the build masks, specifically because of the white shaggy hair that's coming out of the back. Which is a pretty defining trait of the build mask when you look at it from behind. But we can't see the front of their faces enough to be able to tell for sure. But I think that's definitely interesting considering, Freyda's ties to
Do we think that the 2 snakes might represent Karth and Framt?
That's I think so.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially the first one looks impaled on the sword, right? So that could be representing Framt and fuck that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And the second
I'm
one,
gonna
they're
go
sort of
find some
lifting up.
dudes to set on fire.
Well, and along the bottom, you see that it's like fire but ash at the same time. Because it looks like you would expect this to be colored.
That you get from the abyss.
Oh, touche. Duh. That makes sense.
That's
because
why we bring you here, because you're all thinking.
Other than the Aussie quotient for lower chats. Because you would expect that to be colored yellow or red. And again, this looks. So I guess JSF, to what you were saying earlier, this looks almost like the kind of stuff that I used to have to distract myself with when I was a kid growing up Catholic, being in church, like looking at like the different murals and stuff. This looks like the kind of stuff that you would see in a Catholic church.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up Catholic, and this shit.
You have to occupy yourself somehow, right?
Yeah.
So I remember as a kid just like looking at all the different
doodle on
murals
the back
and like
of your
imagining
church.
things. Yeah.
Draw sick ass chicks holding snakes with burned hands.
Yeah, or
That's how I occupied myself. Oh yeah, it's so rad.
the sword on the left is like super thin too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it,
Well,
it
that's
looks almost like an
that's-
S-stock.
Priests traditionally use the rapier, don't they?
Yeah. Oh, touche.
That's slightly too long to be a rapier.
That's too long
Yeah.
to be any historical sword. That thing is like. Yeah.
It's long to be any historical sword, but like Dark Souls has the fucking.
That's
like,
fair. That's fair.
The lance.
Black Iron
But it
Sword.
also has the
Yeah.
Lucerne, which means that
Yes.
Sweden exists in the Dark
Yes.
Souls universe.
Also,
You know this story, Aegon? You're kind of looking
No.
around.
No,
So-
I'm looking at it, trying to see what.
Have you heard of have you heard of the Lucerne in the Souls games? Was it in Demon
Yeah,
Souls? or
no,
in Dark Souls?
all three of the Dark Souls
So
games, yeah.
the name Lucerne is the name of a place where they made this hammer, like in
Ah.
the real world.
Interesting.
Means that
Interesting.
it's like it's one of those fun
Sweden's
anachronisms.
canon, basically.
Yeah, like when someone says Eureka or something, and you're like, but wait a second.
You got cultural references that came
Yeah.
obviously much later. Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
So, like, looking at the arm that Jake said was burned, could that be embered rather than burned?
See, I thought
Yeah,
that
I-
as
I could
well,
see
but
that.
it's like
Yeah.
it's really black outside of like
Yeah.
where it's glowing, and I'm not sure like what different races they have in the Dark Souls universe.
You're talking about the arm on the right, the one that's holding the snake, right?
The one
Jake?
that's holding the snake. Yeah.
There are black people in the Dark. I think. But that's not.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right?
It looks.
They're like
I guess
Blander or something from the character creation.
Katarina. I think it's the.
Yeah, Katarina is
black
the dark-skinned one,
Even-
but then like none of the
even
Katarina
though, yeah.
characters have
Yeah,
that.
because I was about to say. Wow.
But no, but in the
Japan.
character creator, yeah, the black like preset is Katarina.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, even though the only 3 Katarina knights would be
It's a jubilant Katarina, and they have that ridiculous.
Jubilant Yeah.
Japan, why?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah,
Don't do that. You can't do that. Japan.
No.
They don't get it. They don't understand.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is really interesting. I don't know that I have really anything interesting to add.
I know
To
another thing I kind of found interesting. So for the most part in Dark Souls, when we come across seeing like an armor or seeing a picture of someone in armor, a lot of times we can receive that armor. It's not very often that we see an armor that we're not able to acquire. So I
Or
thought
it's
it was-
concept art.
Say what?
Sorry, or it's concept art.
Yeah.
Like if it's a painting or something. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, so I thought it was really interesting. looking at their armor, the closest, or their robes rather, the closest thing to me it resembles would be the gold-hemmed set from Dark Souls 1.
Which is in turn seemingly related to the robe of prayer? At least the item description mentions that it has gold-hem on it, doesn't it?
Oh, does it?
I'm pretty sure it does. I think Cassidov was the one who pointed that out to me.
Yeah, they do kind of look like they could be like Izalith.
Yeah,
Right.
like, and if Lothric is supposed to link the fire, then it kind of makes sense for him to have this robe that's related to this fire thing. I don't know. But like, it's a black robe. They're not like, it's not a wholly original concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But sorry, go on, Jake. I interrupted you.
No, I just think it's interesting. Like, I'm not gonna go into, like, kind of my big theory, because that'd take an hour, because I just...
Oh, well, now you have to.
I just thought it was interesting, because, like, the biggest thing I'm known for at the moment is kind of my absurd but slightly logical, Velka is the Witch of Izalith / Piglet.
What?
Yeah.
Shut up.
No.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
No.
I'm just to be clear, I'm laughing at Redgrave's reaction, not necessarily the theory.
Bro, no.
No, we don't have another, like...
Oh, we got time.
45
I got
minutes.
time.
I got nothing to do. Actually, that's a lie.
You should say how Redgrave talks to me.
Oh yeah, you could
Yeah.
the vlogs like where
Yeah, this is Redgrave's thing.
I believe that I can't do it. He's like, I think that the doll is son of them. Like, you're fucking stupid.
Yeah,
Those are like direct conversations.
yeah. Just like go and kill yourself, stuff like that.
Sounds about right. Yep.
Oh man, when I was watching that video you made,
Yeah,
was
Redgrave
super
reacts.
I was super mad, man.
I wanted you to like face cam that.
Yeah, right.
Redgrave reacts
Just
and
change,
you're
change your channel to
fuming and
Redgrave
furious.
reacts to other people's lore theories.
Oh, like the Redgrave reacts to movies from the '90s. You won't believe his reaction.
Ugh.
But sorry, Jake, go on. We keep interrupting you.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
we
just
do a
saying
lot.
it's interesting that just how similar it is to the Goldham set.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, it does look a lot like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I'm trying to think of other things, but like the only other thing I can think of that's like we could talk about the Grave Tender and the Millwood
I don't want
Knights.
to talk about the Grave Tender.
No,
No,
Millwood Knights?
I really
Millwood
don't.
Knights are interesting.
Oh, does anybody else like Artorias and Seth? Oh.
Yeah, so just so we're clear, because I heard
Oh.
someone raise this idea the other day that you have to kill Sith in order to beat Dark Souls 1.
Yes, you do.
Unless you're doing the kill and skip glitch. So like, unless
Oh,
there's
man, there were so many
strange-
rumors back in the day. I don't know. Were you
About-
guys? I don't know. Who here was around at the very beginning of Dark Souls 1?
I
Anyone,
wasn't.
or did you guys pick it?
I wasn't.
Oh man, like
I wasn't until mid
I called it.
2013.
Do you remember way back when it was like, there's a way to unlock Luigi in Mario? Like
Mario
like
64, yeah,
all the
yeah.
stupid rumors.
Yeah.
You get,
Yeah.
like, did you know you can actually get the Triforce in Ocarina of Time? It's like, shut up, no, you can't, dude. That when it was like, no, there's a way to spare Sith.
People are still looking for their Triforce using
Yeah.
using Game Shark beta questing is what they call it.
And they found
Man.
it. It is
They
actually
found
in the
it,
game.
yeah.
You just can't acquire it. Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh shit. What
Oh, but like,
Yeah,
like
no, it's actually
we
there.
were here when Bloodborne first came out, and that had ridiculous, like, the Spider Covenant.
No,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was one website in particular, which I will not mention out of respect for the owner, who is a very lovely person who I've
Yeah.
spoken with a few times. But yeah. Mm-mm.
Extra life?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just rambling at this point, so I guess we might as well call it.
We could talk about the kanji at the bottom of the mural that's not in the game.
Why not?
Yeah, let me hear about that, because so presumably it's just the artist who drew it, though, right?
So yeah, that kanji doesn't show up in the actual game itself. It's just on the texture that someone pulled.
Right.
It's super blurry and dark and hard to read. I sent it to a friend of mine who speaks Japanese, and he was like, it could be something like the crossing of the Daughters of Bone or something like that, but
Oh.
it's super
Oh, so it's like a
blurry.
name, potentially?
Yeah, like the name of the painting. like whoever was making the painting presumably did like 3 or 4 different paintings and just named them all, and then there was like an in-dev thing, but that the name of it never got put into the game itself, obviously.
Jake, were you the one who extracted this texture then?
No, I found this.
So I guess the next step would be for us to try and see if we can get the highest resolution of the texture possible.
Yeah, that's what we tried to do last night, but we couldn't find any. And like my friend who speaks Japanese was like, yeah, it's, I don't know. The thing about kanji is that like it could, if you get one thing wrong, like it could mean a bajillion different things. Each character has like a good 20 or 30 different meanings on its own. Yeah. So like it's
really
again
depends
going
on the
back
context,
to the whole,
right?
like, the translation thing.
Well, yeah, the thing is that Japanese as a language has a really, really small vocabulary compared to English. Like, they have one. It's all about just the context in which you use words. And so it's like, yeah, this could mean something like, a depiction of the crossing of the daughters of Ash or something. It could also mean something completely different, just because I can't read it all and it's not very clear.
So Ariandel wasn't trying to get us to fight Lady Elfrida, right?
No, he just wanted.
Because that was my
no.
Yeah, but so
well, he's not all there at the end. He's clearly like senile or something all there at the end.
I'm still trying to tease out though what he means. Like it's obvious in one sense what he means, like when the ashes are too. But so there's 2 different types of flames then, like because there seems to be a flame like maybe that he was using as a restorative tool.
Isn't he trying to put the flame out with blood?
He's trying to appease
so that the world rots away.
Yeah, so to just keep the flame appeased so that the rot can just spread.
So when he's staring into his bowl and he's saying like the flame's flickering, I can see it. He's not saying that's a good thing. He's saying that's a bad thing.
Yeah, that's why he wants his flame.
Real quick, is that or is that not a Lord vessel?
It's the same type of basin that we see elsewhere in the game.
Is it? Yeah.
But if you look at the Firelink altar in Dark Souls 1, like if you look across the way, you can see that there's a ton of basins.
I remember seeing like a side-by-side shot that someone did of like Ariandel.
See, the thing is, the Lord Vessel doesn't actually have any support.
It doesn't have the bottom part.
No, you put it into like a circular branch sort of opening.
That was my question.
The Lord Vessel is literally just like a bowl.
Yeah.
Whereas all the ones that we find in Dark Souls 3 actually have like a bottom part built into it.
I don't know what.
And there are different inscriptions along the side as well.
Yeah. All right. That was just my curiosity.
But so that clarifies something that was really. My initial thought was that he was trying to get us to light the flame, to revive the flame to make. But yeah, that makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
And Jake, was it your video where I got that idea from, where they were that they were it was either yours or Mitch's, where they were trying to lock up the painter in order to ensure that the fires or that the rot spreads and that the fire can't. That she can't sort of repaint the painting.
I think that may have been.
It might have been your video. I don't know.
I don't think I touched on that specifically. I may have. I fucking.
It might have been. I watched a few videos and they've all kind of sort of blended together in my mind. So I hope you and or Mitch will forgive me for that.
Yeah, no. I think probably the most ridiculous thing to me in this expansion, or DLC rather, was the first time I fucking heard Ariandel talk. I don't know if it had the same effect on me,
He
but
sounds
I was
like
not
Shrek.
expecting that. I thought like this is a big scary motherfucker. He's like, bring me my flail.
Yeah.
My flail, bring me my flail.
The best. Like I think that was probably the best cutscene though, from phase 1 to phase 2.
Yeah.
Like that
awesome.
cutscene.
It's fucking awesome.
Gosh. And like you
that
could
whole
just.
boss fight is awesome.
Even though, like, it's not even a human face, but you could just see the emotion in his face as he's screaming, like...
The whole thing is even from the first phase where it's like, it's reminiscent of Priscilla, and, like, you have this same, very similar kind of fight going on.
And of Lady Maria as well.
Yeah, well, obviously. Like, they straight up ripped some of the assets from Lady Maria.
Yeah.
Although it's not ruined because you can't just parry everything she does.
Yeah.
Oh,
I tried.
It's the Lady Maria fight.
Also,
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, but like when I was like so into the oh shit, it's a cool Priscilla-esque fight that whenever she went invisible, I was like, where are the footprints at? You know.
That's what I was looking for too, and that's why I had to switch the headphones.
You have to look at the way that she moves, at the way the snow drifts or whatever.
Yeah, and you can see like when she lands, like there's a little bit of snow.
Yeah,
that kicks
and if you
up,
get
like,
close enough to her, like Witch of Hemwick style, she just
design-wise, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's a brilliant fight.
Great. Yeah.
What I also thought was interesting is because it was a very Priscilla-esque fight, but her invisibility was more like akin to the what's the fucking ring you get from Rosaria's Covenant? The obscuring ring, because she would launch away and become invisible. But if you were close to her, she was visible.
That's
she
true.
couldn't go invisible.
Yeah.
But with Priscilla, like you could be right up on Priscilla, and she would be whacking away at you and still be invisible till you actually bring her out.
You have to stagger Priscilla, yeah.
But then we also have like I don't know what they're called, the enemies in Irith who are invisible until you get close.
The Irithil slaves.
Is it possible that they also are all using obscuring rings? Because that's the only other mechanical equivalent I can think of.
I think it's more that they're so faded away that you don't see them.
I can accept that. I can accept that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you're saying, Jake, is that either she has some sort of innate ability to do that, similar, I guess. I was about to bring up a Bloodborne reference, but again, I'll try to be spoiler conscious. Excuse me. But so you're suggesting that it's possible that maybe she has an obscuring ring? Because if she was an ashen one, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting, especially considering just how much this fight was supposed to kind of be like a shout out to the Priscilla boss fight, and
well, the first phase definitely is just like, hey, remember Priscilla?
Yeah,
this fight's kind of like that.
So that's why
but with frost instead of bleed.
Yeah, that's why I'm curious as to whether it was like an obscuring ring effect, or she has the power to go invisible, but it's not as grand as Priscilla's.
Excuse me. Well, okay, so I'll just say, so in Bloodborne, there's a character who, excuse me, you can get an item which will, it's similar to the Dex ring, the Karthus ring, where when you roll, you disappear for a second. And so in Bloodborne, there was an item you could get to do that, that was a bone, and then later on we meet the person to whom the bone actually belonged, and we find that for them, they don't have to squeeze a bone to do it. It's just an innate ability that they have. And so I do wonder whether perhaps Lady Frieda somehow has that ability innately in a way that people who use the obscuring rings do not. But that's
Bloodborne
really reaching.
Confirmed same universe as Dark Souls 3.
No.
He's fucking with it. He's fucking with it.
I know that there are some people who are becoming increasingly convinced by that, but
well, it's FromSoft's fault. They're the ones who keep throwing references in everywhere.
It's just FromSoft. That's just what they do.
I know, but like,
the
you can't be
multiverse
mad.
that rotates around the Moonlight Greatsword and a giant crow.
Yeah.
And the Raven from Armored Core 1.
That's the giant crow.
You're right.
Velka confirmed for Armored Core.
Mind blown. Yep. Illuminati confirmed as well.
And Patches is just a planeswalker.
Well, Patches just sort of, I think he just sort of exists outside. It's not really. I always think back to the interview in the Bloodborne guide where Miyazaki just says, he said he's so proud of Patches.
He's super proud of Patches because everyone else is going crazy, but Patches is like super killing it. He's having a great time.
Even though he's a spider. Oh shit. Oh,
Spoiler
man.
alert.
Okay, yeah, I gotta stop spoiling things for Jake.
It's his fault. He brought 3 Bloodborne people to talk about Dark Souls, and he didn't think they were going to talk about Bloodborne. Come on, he knew what he was getting.
This is true.
This is true.
Well, anything else, Jake?
No, I think that covered all my notes and shit.
Well, sorry for all of us talking over you pretty much the entire
No, dude, it's good. Like I kind of like having like the kind of moderating role anyway. I get my words in every now and then and just kind of let you guys go to town.
Usually it's Aegon who moderates, and then JSF and I just yell at each other for like 2 hours.
Well, and someone in the comments to the previous podcast mentioned that I talk too much, so that person's probably not going to be too pleased.
Yeah.
This episode. Sorry to whoever that was.
Who is this guy coming onto this channel acting like he owns the place?
Yeah, what a fucking guy, that Aegon person.
Somebody asked me to stop swearing as much.
Yeah.
What's up, guys? My name's Redgrave. Nice to meet you.
So you mentioned that in your JC playthrough, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, that's gonna be hard to do.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, that's not happening. I'm sorry if that offends you, but I'm not sorry.
I try when so Redgrave has this conception of me that I apparently swear a lot, but when
the camera turns off, you do.
What I try to do is I try to only swear like every once in a while, so that when you do swear, it has like maximum impact. Like, oh my god, I just swore.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like I do that even when I'm teaching too. I stand at the front of the class, and this fucking thing, and everyone's he just swore. I didn't know I could swear.
Yeah. No, yeah, that makes sense. I don't even register them as swear words. I think they're just fucking words, and words.
They're like one of the 6 words I use.
Yeah, like.
It's like fuck, dude. Sup.
That's fucking stupid.
Yeah, stupid and like kill yourself. It's like about it.
I can confirm.
What a loving relationship.
But when I yell at you, it means it.
Yeah.
All right, Jake. Well, thanks very much for having us.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure as always.
Yeah.
Are we doing any closing things? Are we like
looking forward to the next one?
Yeah, we could each individually close, I guess, if you want to, add your last comments and plugs and what have you.
I don't have anything to plug. I haven't made a video in like 7 months.
Yeah.
People are gonna be so mad when they see me on this, and they're like, "Make a fucking little things in Yarnum."
Yeah, I get messages asking where Redgrave is.
I had someone on a stream ask me, "Have you stayed in contact?" Kind of. Yes. No. Okay, so I guess my shout out then would be if you would like to see JSF or Redgrave at some point in the future talking more Dark Souls 3, then you can subscribe to my channel, I guess, because I
probably do that eventually.
I dragged them here today, and I like dragging these two places. I'm surprised that they humor me so much, but yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's fun. We love it.
Well, usually it's me that's doing all the work, but this time it's Jake. So
yeah, I never do any work, so I don't mind. I just show up.
The prima donna just sitting there texting on your phone in the middle of.
Shut up. You were texting earlier. I saw it.
No, I was looking up the definition of forlorn.
Okay, all right.
Okay, Richie.
Yeah. I will shortly, maybe around the time this goes up, depending on how long it takes to edit, have something on Dark Souls 3 up on my channel. If you're interested in the Deep and Aldrich and the Evangelists.
And make sure you click on the video.
Video.
Make sure you click on the videos tab on JSF's YouTube
Oh yeah,
channel.
I don't understand how YouTube
Because otherwise
works.
it'll say, I made you a whole tutorial and you have to click on the videos tab on JSF's channel. Otherwise it'll say this channel has no content.
Also, I'm going to keep making Bloodborne stuff if anyone still cares about Bloodborne. I do intend to finish my examination of that game.
What are you gonna do? It's just so funny when you go back and you look at your first videos where I'm gonna be doing 1 or 2 of these a week. And
oh fuck! I was
writing my dissertation.
I've got 3 or 4 videos coming up soon that are gonna be about this and this and this and this.
Yeah,
that's why I don't make promises anymore. I just say
the research period takes a long time.
I learned that quickly.
Oh, see, that's my secret is I don't do any research.
Yes, that's where we differ.
Not everyone can talk off the cuff like you, though, Redgrave. So.
But yeah.
Well, thanks for having us, Jake.
Dude, it was a lot of fun. Thanks for letting us bullshit over your actual important thing.
No,
we just sort of treated it like nothing.
No,
sorry.
Yeah, that's basically what I do in all my fucking videos, anyways. So. It's good. I've become the fucking meme of the Dark Souls community, so I'm used to bullshit.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Why? Well, I'm maybe your Velka Witch of Izalith theory doesn't help, but
no.
You can tell the contempt in Redgrave's voice as he says that.
I'll tell you what. We'll make a podcast where just you come and try to deconstruct all of my theories, and I'll try to defend them.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually.
Because that'd be fun, regardless. Because
I don't know if I'd have anything to add.
Well, the thing is, it's just going to be 2 hours of me going, "That's fucking stupid. Shut your mouth."
Well, because regardless, we'll go back to the first thing you said, which is time is convoluted and everything's right anyway. So.
Yeah, that's sort of my number
Touché.
one problem with Dark Souls.
But yeah, but definitely make sure you check out all these guys' channels, and especially if you like Bloodborne, they're gonna have a lot of good shit for that, and a little bit of Dark Souls and all the good shit. But thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next Beside the Bonfire.
Bye.